Welcome everyone to the 7th RPG Sanctum. Tonight's subject is going to be the optimum length of RPGs. I'm your host, Roy Burnett, and with us we've got our forum admin, Alex Reimer.
Hello everyone.
Phil Willis.
Howdy.
Nathan Schlothen.
Hello.
David McBurney.
Slurred speech ahoy.
Alex Fuller.
Hi there.
And Sarah Williams.
You know, if I cared about being PC, I would have chastised you for not saying add woman. But I don't, so.
Well, as everyone knows, our topic for tonight is going to be what we think the best length is for RPGs. Everyone knows RPGs can range in ways from being 10-hour, 10, 20-hour experiences to being mega 400-hour experiences with games like Disgaea, and if you're in an MMOs, virtually infinite amount of time. Alright, Phil, why don't you start us off? What do you think is the happy medium for RPGs outside of MMOs?
30 seconds. Have you played 30 Second Hero? Awesome game. I just go through that again and again. Actually, I think I did. Because you have to go through over and over. Though sometimes you buy extra time and it lasts for 60 seconds or a minute or two. No? Nobody else? I don't know. It depends on what you're talking about. If you're playing paying for an MMO, you want and you're paying a monthly fee and you're having a good time. I guess you want that to have tons and tons and tons of content. I don't even know if there is an upper limit on that or whatnot. I personally am not big into that particular scene. But I think a lot of MMOs drag on, a lot of regular RPGs just drag on way too long, like the Disgaea games or whatever have you. When they start exceeding the breadth of their plot and their story by padding it with lots of grinding and stuff, it's irritating.
Go ahead, David.
Let's be fair, the bonus content in Disgaea is made for insane people.
Oh, it's not just the bonus content. I mean, you're going through. When I was playing through like this, by the time the first 10 chapters or so, the increase of the leveling necessary is pretty even paced. A little grinding here and there will get you through. But when you get to 11, 12, 13 chapters, 12 chapters, whatever it was, the last few chapters, one of them will be level 50, the next one will be level 55. Oh, I've got to stop and go and grind for 5 levels, or I got to play around with that court system, which usually requires me grinding at some point, anyways. And it was like, yeah, I don't know. I was kind of frustrated towards the end of this game because I really wanted to see the ending, but I wasn't a big fan of all the grinding I had to do in between the chapters towards the end. It was a lot more than what I had to do to get there. But I think the length of an RPG should be in direct proportion to the breadth and awesomeness of its story. If it's got a really great story with a lot of character exposition and development and subplots, then that guy can go on for 80 hours or so, and I'm going to be happy. But if it's a game that the story's pretty shallow and whatever have you, it should be a 10 or 20 hour deal max. It's just my opinion.
All right, Mr. Fuller, what do you think?
Generally for me, I think anything between 25 and 60 hours is generally my limit. I think the shortest one, around the 25 mark, was Infinite Undiscovery. The fact that it was short probably helped me enjoy it more because it wasn't. So the ones that aren't special, if they're shorter, it's much easier to sort of get through it. I mean, the top end, I think 60 hours for all the really good plot ones. I mean, you've got the Persona games as well, which last one I did was about 110 hours to complete that. And while it was fun for the first 60, after that it sort of gets a bit tiresome.
Alright, and Nathan, what's your ideal length for an RPG?
I like RPGs to be around 30 to 40 hours mostly. Not because I don't think they can be good longer. I mean, I've enjoyed plenty of games which are longer than that. It's just that most RPGs really don't have the kind of story and complexity and development needed to keep things kind of good, rapid, enjoyable pace for
any longer than 30, 48 hours. So I don't like games being padded out longer than they actually have that kind of good, solid story. And in fact, it's usually around 30 to 40 hours. I mean, I don't like games which pad out lots of side quests or grinding or anything. I mean, if it wants to be longer, then one of the very few games I've seen that I've really enjoyed that was much, much longer was Xenogears, simply because like it's a huge, long game, but every minute is packed with twists and turns and new developments and stories. And it takes a game with the kind of crazy ambition of Xenogears to actually pad out that kind of length, that kind of great amount of enjoyment. I mean, other games which I've enjoyed which were very, very long for me were Persona games, but for both Persona 3 and 4, which despite no matter how much I loved them, I had to take these like 3-month-long breaks and about halfway through each game that just to recover from the amount of how grueling they can be playing through that kind of long game the way I played through them. And yeah, so I like long games, but it's so hard to stick with them after a certain amount of time.
And Sarah, what do you think?
Oh dear. You know me. I'm one of those insane OCD people when it comes to a lot of this stuff. I mean, Disgaea, I think, should have only been like 50 hours for a normal person, but when it's me, it's plus 400, and I still haven't finished. But I kind of have to take the length that you have to take into account. You know, am I thinking about the game without side quests or reasonable side quests? And then there's Disgaea and Pokemon stuff where it's going to be me grinding my ass off and doing everything. I think some of the games I thought were really pretty good and concise was Grandia 2 for one, which had very minimal side quests, if any, if I can even recall, but it went along at a very excellent little clip, and I didn't feel overgrinded, and it's just like ended as like that was a nice little satisfying experience. And also the not so much artillery or what is it, Artillery Iris. It's not so much the first one, but the second one went at a very nice clip, even with all the side quests and alchemy stuff, because they improved on the mechanic from the first game, in which that with the alchemy, you only could carry like 9 total of any ingredient that you needed, so you have to go back, get more ingredients, go back, get more ingredients. Whereas they adjusted that in the second game where I could carry a lot more. So that went at a pretty fast clip, which surprised me. And I never actually count the hours myself, you know? I just have there's just this internal clock in my brain that at a certain point in the experience I realize, okay, I should have ended this by now. A normal person would have ended this by now, but not me, because I'm obsessive.
Alright, and Clicks, what do you think?
I'm kind of going with the whole, story length or, epicness, so to speak. It also has to be what the game wants to get accomplished. Like, for example, Final Fantasy 13 kind of felt like it wanted to streamline the whole process. And that's all fine and great. I actually kind of enjoyed that for a while, but if you're going to streamline, you have to be 20 hours with that kind of content, not 50. And so it kind of is what the game wants to accomplish as an overall goal, not only in the story, but, I think Disgaea is fine with that long length because Disgaea is that kind of, OCD paradise of you will grind until your thumbs bleed. It's just, I think it depends on what the game wants. For me personally, though, I think I usually kind of like about 50. 50 is a good number for me most. And then 50 is not always going to cut it for some games. Some games are longer, some games really need to be shorter.
Now, what do you guys think about what would happen if there was a current trend like what you see among in FPSs nowadays and action games and whatnot to try and cut down the RPGs to like a 6 to 10 hour experience? If that were even possible.
I don't think that's possible. Well, yeah, it's like most action games work well at 6 to 10 hours because they're packed extremely dense with stuff that doesn't take a long time to develop. I mean, RPGs are filled with things that take time, like character developments, conversations, story developments, which you can't compress beyond a certain point. It just doesn't work very well. Not like, say, Vanquish works very well at an extremely short time because it's just an awesome compressed bit of ultra fun for every moment to moment.
And David, you were going to say something about that. Go ahead.
Okay, I'll go up and speak. Let's see. For having a game down to RPG for 6 to 10 hours, I guess it's possible. Some of the more indie-based ones certainly do that well enough. But if you're going for something really big and over the top, you're definitely going to need a little bit more time. Unless you're just pretty much cutting out all actual gameplay, you end up with just Xenosaga with literally no actual gameplay.
No, there's a game I'm reviewing for the site right now called Alpha Kumari that, see what you guys think of this. The game itself is actually rather short. It's actually about 6 hours, but it's going for an episodic release.
Yeah, episodic tends to be a bit shorter.
Even with episodic though... Oh, even episodic, too short of episodes can get a bit... It makes you feel like you haven't gone anywhere if it's too short. Dot Hack did pretty good with its episodic structure of having each game being a pretty good 20 to 30 hours, which was a pretty good, nice chunks that are good and funny on their own, so it kind of breaks up with otherwise being a really long game.
Yeah, but the pricing was probably the wrong thing off of that episodic content. Paying full price for a game that is kind of, while certainly larger than most episodic games, 20 or 30 hours for a full-price game that's, only maybe a fourth or a third of the actual game is still kind of a rip-off to me.
Plus, I feel like they extended the length a little bit in the Dot Hack, especially the first one, but sort of the second ones too. They padded it by recycling a lot. Like, they technically only had 5 different areas, and they would just resend you back to higher level areas, but they were the exact same areas. So they didn't.
And then generations they weren't.
Plus, they could make it harder by deliberately, especially if you were in an inner dungeon, you couldn't leave a room until you fought and killed those monsters. At least when you were outside, you had the option to run away and just ignore them. But if you were in the dungeon, then it's no, you don't get to leave, you don't get to just bypass this monster. You have to fight it, and you have to kill it. So they made it go a little longer that way.
Yeah,
the only really padding in that game I can really complain about is hunting for virus scores, but I guess I'm a somewhat different approach to Dot Hack than some other people.
Dot Hack Quarantine is a nightmare of virus core collecting.
Oh, don't remind me.
Plus that whole there was that really unfair dungeon, and I can't forget if it was a side quest or not, that really unfair dungeon where you had to fight virus-infected monsters over and over again. And of course, if you go over the limit, you're going to game over yourself because Kite can only take so much of the virus draining.
I think
that was a bonus dungeon.
Yeah, that was
side dungeon to recruit Ryoko.
That's right.
Yeah.
I'm insane, though.
That's okay. That was definitely a hard dungeon unless you're 100. Or 99.
Yeah,
whatever the cap was.
I almost did. But I hit a certain limit with my OCD-ness, and I think aside from trying to get every single item in the game, I pretty much did all the stuff. I'm not that insane.
Good.
I do hit a limit.
Or so you claim.
Well, stuff also if it gets exceedingly annoying. Final Fantasy X, I did not do the Chocobo quest to get Titus's ultimate weapon. I said, screw that, I'm not even going to bother. I did not do the dodge 100 lightning bolt stuff. I did not go back and play Blitzball because at the point I realized